For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. Presidential candidates Vice President Democrat Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump hold campaign rallies in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today to court voters in the swing state ahead of tomorrow's presidential election. Harris also campaigns in Allentown and Philadelphia, which will be her final campaign rally tonight. Trump also campaigns in Grand Rapids, Michigan today and campaigned in Raleigh, North Carolina this morning, where he pushed his xenophobic and economic messages.
With your vote tomorrow, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into our country. Which I happen to think is the absolute worst thing that has ever happened to our country. I've never seen it. They're putting in murderers, releasing all of their prisoners from jails all over the world, not South America, all over the world, into our country. I think it's the worst thing.
Catherine Carley has more.
To get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news, and I don't mind that so much.
With just one day until the election, former President Donald Trump is repeating his use of violent rhetoric, this time towards the media. Trump lamented the need for bulletproof glass to protect him at a Pennsylvania rally, but said it's okay if members of the press get shot. Media staff have been physically attacked at Trump rallies. Vice President Kamala Harris campaigned in Michigan, home to nearly 250,000 Arab Americans. To those frustrated she hasn't done more to end the Gaza war, Harris repeated her support for a two-state solution and again said the civilian deaths are unconscionable.
We need to end the war, and we need to get the hostages out. And as President of the United States, I will do everything in my power to achieve that end and a two-state solution.
A well-regarded poll shows Harris with a slight lead over Trump in deep red Iowa, thanks in part to older and independent women. Most found that stunning, but not Sarah Janes with the Rural Democracy Initiative. She says nearly 8 in 10 Iowans are against abortion bans and support better child care for working families.
They're very focused on working people as kind of the heroes of the economy and concerns that impact working class people.
The Trump campaign dismissed the poll as a meaningless outlier. I'm Catherine Carley for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
Thousands of women rallied at the nation's capital Saturday to protest the possibility of a second Trump presidency, many in support of Democrat Kamala Harris, with abortion rights on their mind, chanting, "We won't go back," as they marched towards the White House. Here's 77-year-old Lena Anderson, who traveled from New York City, Alex, who only gave her first name, and Rachel O'Leary Carmona, Women's March Executive Director.
I remember when women were crying and carrying on with coat hangers and other kinds of means to save their lives. I remember when women were crying out for support and medical care because they needed to have their husbands involved in their lives, and they had no choice. They had to go along with whatever men wanted. So here we are today, standing up for democracy, standing up for the right to choose.
I'm going to be 65 in January, and I can't believe we're at this point again. It's a bunch of puritanical BS that we're based on, right? Because why does anybody need to know who's sleeping with whom anyway?
More than ever in 2024, we are voting on freedom or fascism, and there's really no middle ground.
Organizers tell KPFA News there were more than 260 Women's March rallies in all 50 states over the weekend, and some 200 more get out the vote actions. Georgia's GOP and Trump's campaign have filed a state and federal lawsuit challenging election procedures in 7 counties there, where they're allowing voters to turn in mail-in ballots by hand. A judge Saturday ruled it's legal and voters can return their ballots by hand until polls close Election Day. The suit initially targeted Democratic-heavy Fulton County, which includes Atlanta, after elections officials there and 5 other counties opened over the weekend to collect hand-delivered ballots. The new suit targets 7 counties, including Fulton. 5 of them are Democratic-leaning. Israel says it's terminated the agreement facilitating the work of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the main aid provider in Gaza. It's the first step to implement legislation The Knesset passed last month, severing ties with the agency. Director of the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, warned Saturday Palestinians in northern Gaza are at imminent risk of dying. Catherine Russell said in a statement, the risk of dying comes from disease, famine, and ongoing Israeli bombardments, noting more than 50 children were killed in the Jabalia refugee camp, where strikes leveled 2 residential buildings sheltering hundreds of people. A crowd of enraged flood survivors pelted the Spanish royal couple with mud and rocks during their first visit to the center of the nation's deadliest natural disaster in living memory. The death toll in Valencia area in Spain from flash flooding, more than 200. This as recurrent storms that have led to mass flooding are now dumping rain on Barcelona. I'm Christina Onestad reporting for Pacifica Radio.